Hey Pretty Girl Club, welcome to What Color is Light Skinned episode 2. Before you watch this video, please be sure to watch my first What Color is Light Skinned video, and if you're looking for even more content from me, be sure to join the Patreon because I post extra content on there every single day, and it's only $5. But today I'm going to talk about the results from our recent poll that I did on my channel. If you look on my community page, you'll see that I did multiple polls just asking you guys different questions about what you consider to be light skin. So everything I say on this channel is not a hard and fast rule. You definitely don't have to follow my advice or anything. I am not the queen of the MLS community. I'm literally just a random content creator. But according to the poll results, you guys voted for Fenty Shade 390 as being the darkest shade of light skinned, in your opinion. So I looked up Fenty Shade 390 dupes, and Fenty Shade 390 is around MAC NC47. So not quite MAC NC50, maybe a little bit lighter than that. And for those of you who don't know, when it comes to MAC foundation, NC stands for neutral cool, and that means people that have golden or beige undertones. So that would make sense. So you guys voted for Fenty 390 or MAC NC47 as being the darkest shade of quote-unquote light-skinned. And the reason I think this is important to talk about is because I feel like a lot of non-light-skinned people love to argue and police what light-skinned is and what it isn't. But I feel like us light-skinned people ourselves should be able to speak up and say, oh, hey, I'm light-skinned. I am MAC NC40. Oh, hey, I'm light-skinned too. I'm MAC NC42. You know what I mean? I think it's important for us to establish our own boundaries, to gatekeep our own community, and to continue developing a language to describe our own experiences, because I think that there's a misconception that light-skinned equals white-skinned, and that is not the case. There are plenty of us who are light-skinned who are not white-passing. In fact, most light skins are not white passing. If we were, then we wouldn't even be a part of the black community whatsoever, because nobody would really be able to see our blackness, now would they? Because we would all look like Halsey, but we don't. There's a spectrum of light skin tones, just like how there is a spectrum of dark skin tones, and I'm tired of the dark skin community constantly trying to lord over what is considered light skin and what's not. It's like, you're not even light skinned, so why are you even concerned about who's light skinned and who's not? If you police it, you're pedestalizing it. But the reason I want to talk about this is because on this channel, when I use the terminology light-skinned, I will be referring to what you guys voted for, which is the Fenty 300s, basically. The 300s or above, or MAC NC47 and above. Some of you guys may be slightly darker or slightly lighter, or you may have different opinions on what's light-skinned and what's not. That's fine. I didn't come on here to argue back and forth with you guys on what you think it is, because I already did the poll. So if you have a different opinion, feel free to make as many response videos to this as you would like to. But from here on out, when I use the term light-skinned, I will be using people who have the foundation shades that you guys voted for. And as this channel grows, I may do more polls and stuff like that, but I just think that it's important for us to all come together and come to a consensus on what we want to make our standard when it comes to mixed race, when it comes to what's light skin and what's not, when it comes to what's multicultural and what's not. It's important for us to develop our own community. That's how you do it. You start off by developing your own language, developing terminologies, and then you start off by talking about your shared experiences. That is basic human psychology and basic sociology. And so that's what this channel is about. It's about us creating a culture around our shared experiences and basically repping for other girls who look like us. So I'm going to show some examples of these foundation shades that you guys voted for, and I want you guys to tell me in the comments section whether you feel like any of these girls represent you or represent your skin tone. So the women that I'm going to show, they're going to have all different types of admixtures, different percentages of African, but let's get started with the first example. So this first girl that I found on YouTube, I literally just typed in Fenty 390 and I found whatever content creators popped up. So there's this one girl, her name is Destiny Dion. Sorry, I'm pronouncing her name wrong. But anyway, I was able to find this one girl on YouTube. She is Fenty Shade 390. So if I look at her skin tone, she appears to be around kind of the yellowish, orangish, reddish complexion as far as her undertones go. Whenever she wears those colors in her thumbnails, those seem to match the saturation and the hue of her skin tone. So I personally would call this red bone. By the way, do you guys use the terms red bone and yellow bone interchangeably? Because I personally have been called both interchangeably, but I guess the way that I personally view it is if you are around the brightness level of the color red, or if the color red like mainly pops on your skin, then I would say red bone. And then I would say if you're like lighter than the color red, so let's say the color red is like darker than your complexion, then I would call it yellow bone. So I feel like for me personally, maybe that's why I've been called both, because whenever I get a tan, I feel like the color red kind of matches the brightness of my skin tone. Whereas if I'm not tan, I feel like the color yellow kind of matches the brightness of my skin tone. That's just my opinion. But anyway, so with this girl, I am trying to allow you guys to see her features. So she has very African features. She's very pretty. I can see that when this girl wears the color black, she does stand out up against the color black. It does make her appear very bright. So I personally do still consider her to be lighter skinned, although she is darker than me. But for me personally, I don't have that rule that if you're darker than me, you're not light skinned. So this is shade 390, just as an example for you guys. I see that this girl can also pull off blonde pretty well. If you look at some of her videos and stuff, she looks good with the blondes and the browns and the caramel highlights. She seems to have kind of a caramely undertone. By the way, when it comes to skin tone on this channel, I don't really feel like it's necessary for people to come in the comments and be like, oh, well, no, I disagree. You shouldn't have made those people being called light skinned. Okay, well, I already took multiple polls on this channel, so I kind of feel like if it was that important to you, you should have voted on the poll or whatever. I'm going by the majority rules here on this channel, so the majority of you guys voted for about shade 390 as being the absolute darkest. Like I said, I'm not creating real life rules. Like, this is not some sort of cult or dictatorship where it's like you have to follow these rules in real life, but these are the examples I'm going to be using on this channel. So yeah, that girl was what you guys voted as quote unquote darkest shade of light skinned. I tried to pick someone who had very African features to show you what that skin tone looks like paired with African features. So I did notice that this particular content creator does have a very loose hair texture, but I'm sure there are other women who have 4C hair and a similar skin tone as well. So now I'm going to go to shade 385, which is a bit lighter than the girl that I just showed. So I did a quick search and I saw that the one and only Miss Aaliyah J wears shades 380, 385. She also tried on 390. So when I looked at this video from Aaliyah J, she settled on shade 385 as her shade. So she is another example of a darker, quote unquote, light-skinned person. And so I'm gonna show a few pictures of Aaliyah J for those of you who are not familiar with her. But what do you guys think as far as these shades being considered kind of a darker, light-skinned person? If you are within this shade range, I would say maybe Fenty 370 to about 390, kind of the darker shades of light-skinned. Have you ever had people throw you in and out of the light-skinned category? Do you feel like your experiences line up more with the Light Girls documentary or the experience of a light-skinned woman? Or do you feel like your experiences line up more with a quote-unquote dark-skinned black woman? Have you ever experienced texturism or featureism? Have people used those things to decide whether or not they consider you to be light-skinned? For example, if you are in this shade range, kind of just on the cusp of no longer being light-skinned or just on the cusp of light skin, if you wear locks or a more Afrocentric hairstyle, do people consider you to be darker than what you are versus, let's say, if you wear blonde hair? I'm really curious to know. Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.